Well, howdy, folks. How you going? It's Friday, and what do they say about that? Friday. I heard a young person on the radio say today, what a bloody good idea. Friday it is. Exciting Friday. Is your bank still going? Have you checked? Try your online banking. Just asking. I don't know. I did see the banks were having some trouble today with connections. A few weird things happening in the world out there today. And, well, we might just talk about a couple of them. Very shortly, we are going to have Darren Bergwerf join us because he has very exciting news to do with what's going on down in Victoria at the moment. But before we get into that, let me just say good day to a few people. God, you've been in the room for a while. Who was first in tonight? I think it was Sunflower. I think I saw pop in right at the top. 1 minute past 6. Thank you, Sunflower. God bless you. Your hat. Speaking of hats, right. So people have been talking, and you rightfully so, are saying, where the bloody hell's my hat? I can't reach right now, but I now have enough, everything to be able to send it to you. So that's tomorrow's working bee of daughter and I. So I promise you they will be in the mail to you. You should receive them within the week or so. And I know that there are a few people there who are waiting for those. I do appreciate that, and so does the lady concerned. Having a bit of a glance down. Hello, all the usuals are in. Lovely to see you all. I hope you're looking forward to the weekend. Camillo. We'll get to Camillo in a bit. Scrolling down, Veronique is in. Everybody's talking around. I see that Angie is putting in some beautiful words tonight. You are 100% right about so much you were talking about there, Angie. And yes, the darkness, I think, is being shown the light in all different sorts of ways at the moment. And if you haven't made peace with God yet, and let's face it, we talked about it the other night, all you've got to do is ask for forgiveness and be genuine about it. I'd be doing that if I were you, because I very much think things are sooner rather than later at the moment. I'm not one to put dates on things, as you know, but I very much feel there is a lot going on if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. So there are a couple of interesting things going on. So let me line up a couple of slides here. Today, only a matter of a couple of hours ago, there were ambulances at Chapikwa. I don't know if that's how you say it, but at any rate, that's where that is. Now, you might know the name of that a little bit because that's where Hillary lives. And the news report attached with the ambulances is that Hillary, wife of President Bill Clinton, was taken by ambulance from their home in Chapakapakawa in New York to a nearby hospital emergency room. Sources report that Hillary was fine 1 minute and in serious difficulty the next. No other details about the sudden and debilitating situation were made available. Could it be a bullet to the head? Fine 1 minute and in a serious difficulty the next? Just saying. Might be part of the case. Some other interesting news is popping to light about one of the greatest scumbags we are known to have this century, and that is Anthony Fauci. Now, there has been something of a leak, and it looks like my stream is playing funny buggers. Computer is playing funny buggers a bit. So I'm not sure whether or not you guys are actually hearing me. It looks like my screen has completely frozen, which is interesting, as it's the second time it's done this in the last little while. And it required me to reboot the entire system previously. Curiouser and curiouser. So what I'll try and do is keep going for a couple of minutes, because that's what we do in the broadcast game. We never know whether or not there's anything actually going out of the transmitter. And unless this is going to let me open up another screen on another screen, and it's not, I have no way of checking whether or not the bloody thing is actually working or not. So I'll give it another couple of minutes just to see whether or not the computer itself calms down in any way, shape or form. And if not, I may have to reboot and start again. My apologies if that is the case. And for you, if I'm just all jammed up here and you're still seeing things. Weird. I was going to tell you about Anthony Fauci, so I'll end there. Apparently, a skeleton has crawled out of the closet of his, and the Democrats are running for cover from it. Mainstream media, of course, will want to do the same thing because they've made him a saint. Now, the new report basically points out that the origins of the spicy cough definitely come from that Asian country we've referred to in the past. And how do we know that? Because it has now been proved. There you go, folks. Maybe I'm back, maybe I'm not. So let me go to the chat and see what's happened here. First sight I see is ASIO van number 25. Thanks, Jada. That's very funny. Yeah, frozen on all channels. My entire system has been locked up twice now. The first time happened just after 6 o'clock, after I'd set the program up, and it locks my entire screens. I can't do anything, can't click, can't do. The mouse won't move. The only way to get it going again is to turn the computer off and restart it. I've made a couple of adjustments here, put a little bit more cooling underneath it, but it's weird as shit. Can I just say that? So I was telling you all a little bit of news, but with the reboot of things as they are, I might just have to open up a few more screens. And I got to the point where I was telling you a bit about Anthony Fauci. Well, maybe you didn't get that far. So let me just, and I can see that Darren has joined me, so I'll keep this fairly short. But the first piece of news was this one: Hillary Clinton. You've probably seen that enough. Dragged off to hospital. Could it be a bullet in the head? I don't know. She was fine 1 minute and really unwell the next. So that would sort of fit. Anthony Fauci. It's been discovered in China that the spicy cough, the first people with the spicy cough were actually some of the scientists that were working on it in that facility that was funded by Fauci. Now, you might recall, Research Fauci was prohibited from funding by Obama in 2014, right? They weren't allowed to do it. They had been doing it on American shores, but Obama outlawed it in 2014. So what they did then was outsource it overseas. And while the dangerous research was made illegal in the United States, Fauci used American tax dollars to conduct the experiments in foreign labs, specifically that one that we all know and love that starts with a W. You want to be a bit careful about food at the moment, folks. A biotechnology company out of California called Cenomix that specializes in the development of food flavorings using aborted embryonic cells for the production of food chemicals. Now, research into the use of something called HEK 293. HEK 293. Aborted human fetal cells as a flavor enhancer was published in PubMed in 2002, after which several patients were, filed on, I believe. Additionally, the company has partnered with numerous major processed food manufacturers, including Kraft, PepsiCo, and Nestle. So that is a bit of a thing you might want to keep a bit of an eye out for on your food. Now, I do have one other document I've got to bring up before I can get Darren hooked up. Now, there has been some exciting news today, folks. If you are in my place and my place, or if you, let's face it, if you are just concerned about your local councils, then I think what you're about to hear is going to put a bit of a smile on your dial. Sorry for this. I just have to, because everything's shut down, I've got to reset the show up. So let me put Darren Bergwerf up first of all. G'day, buddy. How are you?
Very good. Thanks, Carl. How are you?
Oh, well, it seems like I'm a bit under pressure tonight. I don't know how long this is. If it hooks up again, mate, just give me a minute. I'm going to have to reboot the whole system again. So, but my apologies. You might be able to keep talking.
I've got all the time in the world, mate. It doesn't matter what these Muppets try and do. There's no stopping the Bush Telegraph and the Great Awakening that's happening around our country. So they can do whatever they like on the technical side. The fact is that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are waking up to what's happening and the fraudulent, corrupt system that we're involved in.
So my place has been challenged at council meetings now all over the country, but the Yarra Valley have led the charge in Victoria. They haven't, when I say leading the charge, I'm using poor terminology here. It makes it sound like there's a raving horde with pitchforks and fires out the front. There is nothing like that. But what you have is a bunch of concerned local citizens who've been trying to get into their local council meetings to express those concerns, and they've been stopped from doing so. But there's a bit of exciting news, Darren.
Oh, there certainly is, and it's good. It's like a week's a long time in an evolution, Carl. And we've just I've got some news tonight that shows that we're not just about growing tomatoes. We also do pumpkins, avocados, oranges, and various other fresh produce in the My Place communities. But we're so much more than that. And just I'll leave the Yarra Valley one, but also spoke to the lady that runs My Place Rowville, who got 1,000 members now, and she was in court today in the county court, and she's defending herself, and she had an awesome day. And the solicitor for the plaintiff was actually shaking and very nervous, and we're seeing this across the board. The same thing happened at Yarra Ranges Council today. The person that received that writ was also very nervous and shaking, and we're having a huge impact on a local level for the people in our communities. But so the My Place Yarra Valley crew, along with Darren Dixon, who lives in the Yarra Valley and under the Yarra Ranges Corporation. And so for quite some time, they've been not negotiating, but informing the council of their unlawfulness on multiple levels. But today, they actually, yesterday, it was stamped in the Supreme Court. So today, Darren and Ian and Belinda and Martin all rocked up at the Yarra Ranges Council looking for the CEO or the mayor. Neither were available. So they served that writ for an originating motion that's registered in the Supreme Court and been stamped to open up the meetings, and also an injunction against the council to stop rolling out United Nations agenda with smart cities and the like. There's multiple things.
Wow.
And from my understanding and from what I've heard this week is that even state governments, they don't have any jurisdictional lawfulness to be dealing with any international companies or organisations on any level, and they are not following any of their own due process or their rules and regulations or their charter, from what I can understand. So, and this has been allowed to go on for quite some time, and we know that Dandrews has done some kind of deals with the CCP and China, which he has absolutely no authority to do. And potentially, in my opinion, those contracts are going to be torn up, and I think he'll be shown the door within the next month, from what I can gather as well. So massive win for the My Place Yarra Valley community. They're numbering over 2,000 now. They are leading the way for My Place communities as far as pushing back against the corporation's agenda in their area. So congratulations to them. I'm absolutely stoked with the work that they've done. This now should encourage and inspire all other My Place communities and all other communities, full stop, really, to start to stand up and push back and realise that we, the people, hold the power. And when we come together in situations like this, and we actually do some grassroots hard work, investigation, and education of ourselves. We don't need to wait for anyone else to come and save us. We are saving ourselves, and that's what this whole movement is about. And so my hats off to the crew over at Yarra Valley, My Place Yarra Valley, and Darren Dixon for the work that they've done in producing this document and serving it on the council.
Yeah, well, I just want to point out that people in Queensland, or particularly the southeast corner of Queensland, who I know are very interested in this same sort of issues with local council, particularly on the Sunshine Coast, where only just in the last week or so, local council has sent notice to a lady that owns quite a large number of acres out in the Sunshine Coast hinterland that has 4 tiny homes on it, where a single mother with 3 kids is living, and a couple of other folks who are struggling at the moment, sent them eviction notices. They have to be out and will not hear, any possible theory as to why they should be allowed to stay. It is absolutely mad, and I know a lot of people on the Sunshine Coast are very unhappy about that. So I can tell you that you do have the opportunity to maybe get together. There are some fabulous folks on the Sunshine Coast, Tim and Edith, who run a group up there. I think Kaz is involved with that too. There are a ton of great folks who are getting together, well, as you can see, on the 22nd of June, and they are sick and tired of what council is doing on the Sunshine Coast. Now, this might be a meeting where everybody can come together. It doesn't really matter what clan you happen to be part of at the moment. There is one unifying factor. Your local council is trying to screw you, and these are going to, in the Sunshine Coast's immediate case, allow or bar you from trying to help people. If you have property and they have a tiny home or the ability to put a tiny home on there, and I know, Darren, that's something that you and I are talking about with the hemp manufacturing, the building designs. I know you're involved in designing or being a part of the build process for some of this sort of stuff. So it's very important that these properties are allowed to help out where help can be given. And I'm afraid the excuse of, oh, you know, there'll be so much more rubbish. There'll be, you know, 4 households worth of rubbish worth 1. Well, okay, we'll organise a rubbish run once a week. It won't be too hard with a trailer, or pay a few extra bucks. But do the council actually do the right thing with the money in the first place? So maybe the Sunshine Coast folks can get behind this, happening on the 22nd of June at 11 a.m. And try and attend the next ordinary meeting of the Sunshine Coast City Hall. See what happens.
Yeah, I'll have to have a chat to Greg at My Place Noosa. I know we've got quite a few up and down the Sunshine Coast, My Place community. So I'll get in contact with him tomorrow and see where that's all at. I know there's been some environmental destruction that he mentioned on a Zoom, a My Place Zoom we had the other night in his local area as well. So, I mean, who do these arseholes actually think they are? Is serving an eviction notice for homeless people that just are camping on someone's block? I mean, these people are the ones that need an eviction notice. And when they get evicted, they won't be just going into a caravan. They'll be going into a jail cell, because these putrid people that think that they are dictators and can rule and trash people's human rights are absolutely sickening. And their time is going to come and they will be in jail.
I hope so, mate. That would make me very, very happy indeed. How a council, in all good consciousness, a council of supposed community-minded human beings can do this, and I cannot come up with an excuse or a rationale where that would be acceptable. It's beyond me, particularly at this time, and given the government have said they're going to bring in, 750,000 to 1 million new people next year. You know where those folks are going to come from, folks? They're going to come from cashed up India and China, more than likely. They're going to come in and your properties are going to go through the roof. In fact, I know a number of people who say now the market is overpriced. Well, you just wait. If you think you can find somewhere to rent easily now, just wait. Where are they going to put these people? Tiny homes, great. There's a huge market for tiny homes, but where's the land? And if people who do have land, and I know, Darren, you and I both working with people who have properties that are happy to share it, but then the council are going to come along and say, oh, hey, you can't have that there, you can't have that there, and try and move these people along. Eventually,
well, I would say to those people that council has absolutely no authority unless you consent to their draconian bylaws or whatever they want to call them. They have no authority, right? There's treason being committed allegedly back in 73. We had the same thing here in 2000, just after we voted to stay a constitutional monarchy. And Rob Hulls, I think it was at the time, with Dan Andrews, his chief of staff, removed the oath of allegiance. Now, I'm not a constitutional expert by any stretch, but I am certainly learning very quickly. And from all angles that I've heard, that is a treasonous act, if not sedition. And these people, and it doesn't matter, I don't care who you are, judges, lawyers, police, you pricks that have been stealing people's homes in a very underhanded way for decades. The time is going to come where, and I think they can see it on the wall now, that this isn't just a handful of people that have this knowledge now. We are talking in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So this knowledge about what has happened to our Constitution and what these people have done on it to our freedoms is very widely known, and it will be in the millions. And it is at a point now where no amount of scrutinising our social media is going to stop the knowledge being spread right across this land. And I hope that your show and My Place Communities and everyone else that's involved. We're doing a rally tomorrow morning with A1 in Berwick, working together. All of these, yeah, it is. And we did one. We've done a few now, and we are working together. We've got our own direction. We're doing things in a little bit of a different way, but at the end of the day, we're all on the highway to freedom, and we don't have to be in each other's pockets to be pushing back hard and exposing what we need to expose. At some point, we will all merge and we will become one. But at the minute, the more different groups that are there, which is against what I used to think. I used to think that we all need to be doing the same thing. But I'm happy to work alongside as many people that I know have true intentions for this country. And it's we are gaining so much ground at the moment. It's phenomenal.
Yep. No, My Place, I think, Darren, is one of the it is the best way. And I know that there is a certain amount of decrying the fact that there is people in the group that may not be working for the same reasons that the group was set up. We discussed this right from the outset. We've been very plain about this from the outset. It's up to you when you start your My Place to figure out the people who are not part of the group, who are trying to guide the agenda. And there are ways and means that can be figured out. It's fairly simple, and generally it's only lazy people who don't see it. If you open your eyes and watch for it, you'll be able to identify the doers from the wannabes. You find a lot of the wannabes will say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do the other. They'll work around those who are working to a different goal, and then there'll be the doers, which Darren is certainly one and has been able to gather a number of who head up the My Place Australia organisations around the place. Everyone who's stood up to open up one of these My Places is a doer, and they need more doers around them. So if you've got people who are what's Ricardo call it? Interrupting you into
infiltrating.
Usurping. Infiltrating. God, had a mind block.
That's okay, but
you'll find them.
I don't care. I don't care as such. I don't think there's a group or a chat room or very few, if there is any, that wouldn't have some kind of infiltrators in there. But the whole journey of what we are about is, none of us are spies, and we're not there, buddy. You can't just block everyone on suspicion, as far as I'm concerned. We will sort out any people that are trying to take our idea and our concepts in a different direction. And it's up for the communities then to be able to see that, recognise it, and learn from it, and become more knowledgeable people in their community, so that this shit doesn't happen again. So we can't be holding everyone's hand. People have got to sort this stuff out for themselves and work it out for themselves. And it goes right back to the early days of one MS that people see now for who she is. It goes to all different people that everyone loved at one point in time. But after a little bit of time and and a few words, they see that, maybe that person isn't who I thought they were. So, look, I think that's all part of the journey. We've got to navigate our way through any infiltration that may come in, and I'm not arguing that we don't have some people in there that are just there to try and disrupt or whatever. Okay,
it's a big organisation. There are tens of thousands of people to it, so it's a big organisation.
Yep, and everyone's got to be educated. And now, I don't buy for a second that every single person. I know there's people that are going to argue with me, and I don't have the knowledge that some other people have as far as when it comes to the Masonic filth. But there are very, very and I had a call yesterday asking me, actually asked me outright, are you a Freemason? And I said, mate, seriously? I laughed and I said, no, straight out, I am not a Freemason. But this person knows many that are, and he says they're all good people. Now, this is a person that is in two different groups that I'm affiliated with. And, you know, this is right throughout all country, local communities. We've got to find a way to retrain these people and pull them back from the brink. And you can't do that when you denigrate and you know, it's like trying to attack the police or the councils. First of all, we've got to give them the opportunity. We've got to try and educate them. We've got to show them the truth. And when a lot of people learn the truth, they readjust their mindset. So to me, if we're going to bring this whole country together, we've got to give that opportunity for redemption. And I'm not talking about the real serious filth, right? I'm talking about the very, very shit kickers in any organisation that may be in some kind of secret society. They've got to realise the error of their ways and pull back and come and join us in some way, shape or form. And, you know, if it's that widespread, you're never, ever going to iron those out. All we can do is try and re-educate and show that there's a different way. And if the writing's on the wall, yeah,
you got to do that with the police and the military as well. So not everybody in the police and the military are evil. There are people who've gone in there with the best intentions and still have them. They know what's going on, but they've been too scared to step up, or they haven't been inducted into the right little Masonic, you know, filth handshake to get them further up the tree. And they know at the moment to go and arrest those people or to try and enact some form of justice on behalf of the people isn't necessarily going to work, because, as we know, the judiciary are corrupted from the top down as well. So, yes, they would throw themselves on the pyre of martyrdom, but would they really achieve anything? But I have been hearing in the last couple of days that there are a lot of police and a lot of military who are champing at the bit to be able to start arresting the higher-ups, and they are waiting on an order to go. And in fact, a lot of people were talking in the chat about a couple of C-17s in Sydney today. It's rare that you would see one, but there were two at Sydney International Airport. Well, I can one-up you from there. This is a C5 Super Galaxy that came out of Brisbane this morning. That's headed to Guam. And there was another C5 Super Galaxy coming from the States that went to Guam also today. We've also had a number of our P8 Poseidon sub-hunting craft up. Here's one working into the northern parts of Indonesia, but they have been working all around the southern parts of Australia, particularly off Jervis Bay a few days ago. In fact, there was a heap of traffic. A lot of stuff taking off out of Sydney, out of Nowra, out of Jervis Bay, going out offshore, and then either returning or not. So there was an aircraft carrier, something big was happening out there. There is a lot of operations happening in the world at the moment. There is a lot of military on our doorstep. If you wander around with an open eye, keep an eye. Well, I don't know, maybe not the country areas, but I just happened to go into Brisbane today and saw 4 military vehicles in the city. They were driving around, but rare that you would see 4 of them together in the city. Fairly big, like trucks, not four-wheel drives. So there's stuff happening. There's certainly stuff happening. Keep your eyes open.
I'll be very interested if you could get your hands on that flight log on some of those planes and see whether there's a D. Andrews or a Koshi on those flight logs.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up D. Andrews. Well, let me play this. This was on this morning.
Daniel Andrews' days as Premier of Victoria might be numbered, with speculation he is set to step down from his role and his replacement told to prepare to take over. Let's go live to Isabella Stashkovsky in Melbourne. Isa, good morning. Have you heard from the state government?
Sarah, good morning. You said it would take some time, and I'm happy to say that I have finally heard from the state government. I have an 8-word response for you. You should be seeing that on your screen now, and I'll read all 8 words to you as well. We're focused on delivering what matters for Victorians. A spokesperson from the Premier's office essentially saying to me that there is no truth in this article from the Herald Sun. It's been published this morning suggesting that current Deputy Premier Jacinta Allen has been told to prepare her best team and to be ready to step into the top job at a moment's notice, while Premier Daniel Andrews would be looking at making a move into business, potentially here in Australia or even overseas. As I said, though, at the moment it looks like that is not going to be happening. He has maintained that he will serve out this full final term. So whether or not at some point in the future we will see a future Premier Allen, well, that, Sarah, remains to be seen.
Missing from that 8-word statement was a no.
The word no.
The word no. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, it's just all a circus. I don't even take any notice of it. I've heard, that he's going to be going soon. We know that Gunner's gone. We know that Bergwerf went. We know that other dickhead McGowan went.
McGowan's
so
gone.
it's just a mass
hooked
exodus.
Up to the Jesuits.
Yeah, I heard that in the Cairns News.
Yeah. That seems to be a great source of information, the Cairns News. Might have a bit of news on that shortly. There could be a trip to the north right around the time you might get some time off. You might want to come up.
It's all just noise. It's all just noise, and people just got to take it. It doesn't matter really who's in charge. They're the same. They're the same filth. It's all controlled. They're all puppets, and and the same when these things come out about you can't plant a tree in the backyard, you're not allowed to dig more than 50 millimetres, and farmers can't plant crops and hoe their fields and all that kind of shit. And I just think, brilliant, bring it on. The more of that comes out, it's all part of the Great Awakening. So anyone that keeps still after all this time is getting worked up about these announcements or these so-called acts or bills or whatever they want to call them, seriously, get over it, because none of it's real.
Yeah. There's an old saying. It goes, I'm going to paraphrase it because I'll get it wrong otherwise, but it goes along the lines of, it takes a village to raise a child. My place is the village. It is the community spirit. The more people in it, the bigger the community, the bigger the village. Our government would, if it was working for us, would foster that village up community spirit. But we can see by their actions they are divisive. They are trying to keep us apart. They are trying to stop us from being able to move around freely, do the things that we want to do, provided we're not endangering others or necessarily ourselves. But we should be allowed to measure the level of risk that we are prepared to take when we make decisions to do things. Occupational health and safety notwithstanding, I mean, there is some crazy shit that stops stuff doing now, like working bees, for instance. I mean, you're community minded. When I grew up, every other weekend, my dad was, part of the Lions Club, and we were always out doing a working bee, whether it was picking up bottles, whether it was picking up newspapers, whether it was filling in some or doing some gardening or rebuilding something in the town. There was always something going on. There were plenty of people digging in to help. Occupational health and safety laws these days, and I suppose, insurance would stop that happening, does it?
I'm not even too sure. I mean, my old man was in the Lions Club as well when I was a young boy, and I remember they used to go up to Buxton, up through Hillsville, and cut up a heap of wood and bring it back down and supply wood to underprivileged families. And but the whole concept of all of these Lions and Rotary clubs now it's got a whole different slant on it from, and I don't know how deep that kind of stuff goes, but you can't look at anything anymore and have any trust in any of these organisations. And that's why it doesn't matter what it is. What the people need to do is decide who they want to be and make the changes for themselves, for their future and how they're going to live the rest of their life, and not, they don't have to engage or do anything to save the rest of the world. They've just got to implement a plan for themselves. And if we all do that and just concentrate on leading by example, I think this country would be in a lot better shape.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more. Mate, so I want you to pass on my very best, and I'm sure every My Place in the country is going to be following with great interest what happens now in the Yarra Valley. This is a big step, and it just goes to show just what a little bit of organisation, a little bit of preparation, a little bit of research can actually do. And it might be that the Yarra Valley My Place and Yarra Valley in general leads us out of this mire, particularly in Victoria, of 15-minute cities. But if the Sunshine Coast can get together for their meeting on the 22nd, the Gold Coast, I know, are very active in trying to get, groups like HOTA sorted out with that piece of absolute filth they have standing at the front of their arts centre down there. My Place on the Gold Coast would also, I would assume, be very interested in putting together something just like this. I know Rockhampton were pretty keen on being very active in this space too, and quite a few other places. So this might be the way forward. All power to the Yarra Valley, and I'll let you go off and start enjoying your weekend. You and Anna got anything planned?
No, not really. Oh, we've got a rally tomorrow, which Craig Cole's kind of organised, and I've kind of rallied. There's also a Save Beaconsfield Reserve group, which I've kind of joined, and I'm encouraging all of My Place members around that area to join up and support those guys. I've invited them along tomorrow to the rally. I've invited all of My Place members along to the rally tomorrow. We did one in Mombog a month ago. There was a huge success. We did a Forest of the Fallen last Sunday in Lilydale, which was a huge success. So all these local events and interacting with the public and educating, and they are so ready to listen. And I'm talking about deep shit. I mean, I was telling them about the whole depopulation agenda, the 500 million people plan to eradicate down to that many people on the planet. And these people were listening to every word. They were believing it. They started telling me stories about people that once they'd read some of these that they knew that were injured or got sick. We've just got to get out there and we've got to engage, and we've got to have those conversations face to face. And it's having a massive impact on how quickly people are waking up. But once again, I just really proud of the guys in My Place Yarra Valley for all the hard work they've done, and hopefully they'll get their council meetings reopened, and the shutting down of democracy will be stalled for 12 months if this injunction gets up. But this paperwork, hopefully we'll get some kind of a precedent that we can then roll that out to every other council. I've got a 400+ page affidavit that has so much information and knowledge about. We've got to start serving all of these councils with a notice, knowing that passing on the knowledge of treason. And there is a process, and there is a certain amount of days. There is a 1, 2, 3 letter thing that we need to do. But if they continue at that point, you're giving them every opportunity to listen and actually start to engage. If they point blankly refuse to do that, then at that point, all bets are off, and they, whatever's going to happen when this shit show actually gets fully exposed and comes to an end, they're going to be in a pretty shitty spot. So they all have an opportunity right across the board. And I know Ricardo said this back in October 2021. No, that's bloody nearly 2 years ago. We're heading up towards 2 years since all the establishments had that kind of that cutoff point. And here we are, nearly 2 years later, still saying the same stuff. But the difference now, I think, and there is stuff happening in the background. But the difference now is the public awareness, the engagement, and the boots on the ground now of people that actually care about this country. And we are inspiring and really pushing more people to become involved in that. And it will become insurmountable for the system at some point. And I do believe that will happen this year.
Expanded Awareness wants to know if you can contact My Places any other way than Facebook, because they're banned off it for life by the sounds of it. Do they have physical meeting places? Yes, everywhere. Go to myplaceaustralia.org, Expanded Awareness, and there is a map. It will show you where your nearest one is. Pardon me.
Yeah,
mate,
and we do a lot of the My Places have set up. Facebook's the front of house. It's purely because we want to invite and encourage the majority of the population, and most people. Facebook still is the biggest platform. All your normies aren't on Telegram or Signal yet, but we do have most My Places have a Telegram channel. We have our website, which we're setting up a buddy boss system where we will be able to have a similar type thing to Facebook, where people will be able to interact without getting censored as well. So we are building all the infrastructure. It's taking a lot longer than what we would hope, but we're also trying to facilitate the growth. And we just started 9 new groups in the last 2 days. I don't even know. I don't even ask anymore what number we're up to, but we're getting more and more inquiries all the time. We've got a dedicated team just on onboarding of new communities and supporting all the new coordinators. So be patient. We are struggling to kind of keep up. We need more help. It's going along really good at the moment. And while we continue to have success stories like the Jody from My Place Rowville doing her own court stuff, I'm doing my own court stuff. My Place Yarra Valley, that's a big statement to lodge that writ in a Supreme Court an originating motion. So we're getting our shit together. We're getting more and more organised, and we are making an impact. So jump on board, guys, because we need everybody.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, mate, you go off and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope the rally's all good. Say good day to Chris for me.
I will do, and thanks once again, Carl, for allowing me to get on your platform and share all this news with your viewers. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it, and have a great one. And love to Anna, by the way. Shit, cut him off for too much. Just having a bit of a look at a few of the questions that popped up during that chat. Now, let me try and go down the bottom here. I did see one from Murray River Explorer. The question was, have I ever seen sovereign law work? It would depend on your interpretation of sovereign law, natural law, common law. Sovereign law is something that's not, well, it's sort of two words, but they're not usually put together. Natural law, common law, yes, I have seen that work. Have I seen it work recently? There are arguments to say yes, that has been the case. There are the easiest way to explain it is that you use the knowledge of natural and common law to beat them at their own game in their field. And their field, of course, is maritime law. But certain parts of it have to be engaged, and they have to be able to prove certain aspects of that. If they can't prove certain things, if you know the right questions to ask, if you have done the research, then do you win? Look, it depends on the size of the case, and I think how much money is involved. If it's a case they can comfortably throw away and dismiss, then they will, and they don't have to give you a reason why. You'll walk away knowing that you did something right, but you won't know what exactly, and they'll give you an excuse as to what had nothing to do with you. It had all, it was all to do with them. And in fact, veteran Dan, Lieutenant Dan, down in Canberra yesterday, had a bit of a win, as somebody pointed out in the chat. And I was talking to him today. God love you, Dan. Fucking, you're a hell of a man. So God love you. He had a bit of a win in the courts yesterday, and he is employing certain aspects of this in what he's doing, but there is a danger to doing it. You need to be fully educated. You need to do a lot of research. You need to choose your words extremely carefully. And at the end of the day, you still run the risk of not having any enforcement arm to enforce your win. All right. And there are people who have suffered the win and still lost everything. And I would highly commend you to go and search out a guy called Randall Wirkis, Wirkis. He's done a series of videos on what's happened to him. and they have taken everything from him unlawfully. He's caught them in the act, can prove exactly what they've done, but can find nowhere in this country to hear the case. They all refuse to hear the case because to hear the case would prove what's been going on. And it would prove that there was corruption in the, not just the judiciary, but, all the way through. And he's lost everything. Now he's begging me for his help, but I can't do anything until, well, I don't even know that I can do anything anytime. But where do you take a complaint like that, where they've taken his homes, they've taken his family, they've taken his businesses, they've ridiculed him left and right, they've left him a pariah in certain ways and means. But the only place to take that is to the Court of Human Rights. And I have put forward Randall's case and another from Desi. I've been talking Desi Cochran, for those of you who are aware. There is a human rights lawyer on the Gold Coast. I haven't brought this up because it's taken some weeks to get together. He's not a lawyer, I beg your pardon. He's a researcher, but puts together applications to the International Court of Human Rights. And we're working with him on a couple of other projects at the moment, and I have slipped both Randolph and Desi's cases in, but these things take time, and you only get really one bite of the cherry. It has to be done right, and at the moment, they are, number 3 and 4 on the list. So it's a matter of working through. All this is being done free of charge, and, you can't push people who are doing things free of charge and make demands upon them. It's that simple. So unless you folks would like to help us fund that a little bit more, which you can always do by donating at vofhq.com. Just listen to the song. Or you can go and be a member for as little as $1.25 a week. And right now we're running a competition for members who write limericks. Everyone who writes a limerick goes into the draw to win a 10-ounce bar of silver, thanks to Ainsley Bullion, who are the folks to go and talk to if you're looking to get some of your cash and turn it into something solid. They're great folks to go and see. And Cass Smith from Freedom Financial Solutions has put up 3 silver coins for runners-up prizes. So if you're only good at writing a limerick, please come and become a member. Send that limerick in. And that competition closes on June 30, and we will have some winners announced for you in the following week. I do believe, going back to Murray Rivers' question, I do believe that common law, natural law, and Magna Carta hold the key to our future. And Sovereign Joe and I are very much on the same path here. The Magna Carta, Article 61, was lawfully invoked in 2001, 23rd of March, I think it was 2001. Now, that puts us back under the original Magna Carta 1215 Constitution. People can scream, whine, carry on about that all they like. It's bullshit, it's too old, it's this, it's that, every other freaking excuse. If you actually read it, you'd understand that, all of your complaints don't actually add up to anything. You misunderstand what the document actually is. If you had have read it, and do read it, and read the original Magna Carta 1215, and then, if you can still stomach it, go and have a look at Magna Carta 1297 and see what the differences are. And if you haven't been able to pick them for yourself, I'll make it really easy for you. There is this marvelous human being called Fitz, and he gave me a great education on Magna Carta 1215. And we did 30-odd programs on it. You'll find them on the website at vofhq.com. Start at lesson 1, because it's important that you learn from lesson 1. There is a lot to learn, but it's not difficult to learn. And the understanding that opens up to you once you do grasp the concepts of Magna Carta 1215, because it has nothing to do with the age it was written in. Okay, it has nothing to do. People say, it wasn't lawful because he had a knife held to his throat. In fact, somebody only said that to me the other day. Bullshit. He didn't have a knife held to his throat. He wasn't going to be killed if he didn't sign Magna Carta 1215. King John, who signed Magna Carta 1215 at Runnymede, was given a choice by the barons. Now, he was a baron. He was elevated to the title of sovereign. He was elected, if you like, by the barons who controlled all the lands and the peasants on those lands. They have a duty of responsibility to those peasants to look after them. The peasants look after the land. They look after the barons' profits, the crops, everything that comes off the land. And, of course, the king then gets to, he decided he would start taxing the barons. More particularly, he decided he was going to start terrorizing and murdering the peasants, setting crops on fire, setting villages on fire, murdering entire villages. He became a tyrant of a king and leader. And he was one of 25 barons that had been elected by the other 24 to the elected position of sovereign. Okay? So they went to him and said, listen, John, not really happy. You're cutting off people's heads. You're burning our crops. You're charging us more taxes. And that's the only reason that the barons came to London and challenged him, because he'd been doing all the rest for a while and the barons had done nothing. But when it started to affect their hip pocket, that's when they came to London and did something. And when they came to London, they brought their armies. So the king knew they were quite serious, that if there was to be a fight, then the barons were going to win it. But there didn't need to be bloodshed. Here, king, is a document we want you to sign. And if you were to read Magna Carta 1215, you would find that there are no heinous things he was committed to, agreeing to when he signed that. The choice he was given was sign this document, or we will take you down from the position we elected you to, and we will elect another from us that will sign this document. Now, John would still potentially have been allowed to live, but he also would have been made to face a jury of his peers for the crimes he had committed against the people. And I suspect he wouldn't have lived long. So for those of you that want to offer up the argument, he had a knife to his throat, can't be valid, bullshit. Let's leave it at that, shall we? Because we could go on, and this isn't a Magna Carta lesson. We're already at an hour, and I haven't even talked about UFOs. I am a bit excited about, thank you very much, Misha, and thank you for those folks who've donated tonight with stickers and all that sort of stuff. The stickers is a great way to do things. It takes a little while for it to get to me, but when it does, it always seems to arrive at the best possible time when bills have got to be paid. So thank you so much to everybody who chooses to either donate through a sticker or through the donate button on the website or becoming a member. Thank you so much for your love and support in that regard. All right, we're going a bit long again tonight. It is Friday night, so grab a scotch. We'll see what's going on in the world. I did tell you I was going to talk more tonight about Stephen Greer and what he was putting out from the National Press Conference in America on Monday. We'll get to him in just a moment. There is a lot of talk about UFOs everywhere around the world at the moment. A lot of talk about Project Bluebeam. Now, I want to throw something to you about Project Bluebeam. It goes back to 9/11. And the question I have for you is, what if Project Bluebeam technology, which is the ability to project extremely realistic things into the sky, was around for 9/11? Could it have been Project Bluebeam aircraft that flew into the exploding World Trade Center, the Twin Towers? Could it? I don't know. Just have a look at this. So this is in Dubai on the 2nd of June. And flying whales. This is the kind of technology Project Bluebeam brings you. The ability to see flying whales. Now, from what I understand, the technology requires clouds. A lot of that was obviously completely animated. The helicopter was animated and looked at. The building surrounded in the blue cloth was all animated and looked at. The whales, looked like whales, and clearly swimming around in the sky, we know they're animated, so the brain wasn't sucked in by that bit too much. But that is the level of technology that we are going to be presented with. Now, that was put up as part of a show, but if you saw a whole bunch of UFOs flying, outside your window one night, how would you know the difference? Pick up a rock and throw it at it. I reckon that'd be the best bet. The rock will never hit it if it's a real UFO, and if it isn't, the rock will pass straight through it. Project Blue Beam, this great fear of aliens coming our way. I mean, you heard Rob last night talking about the 10-foot alien that was roaming around Vegas backyards. And I was having a conversation today with another bloke about that. And, there's a lot of talk about, downed alien aircraft or spacecraft, and they are among us. Well, look, I'm not prepared to discount too much of anything at the moment, but Stephen Greer has an awful lot of information. He's been collecting it for many, many years, and I want to believe that some of it is real, and I don't want to believe that he is a plant in any way, shape, or form to try and get us thinking the other way. But I'm skeptical enough to believe that he could be, especially when he puts up the bloke he put up alongside him on stage, and I played a portion of last night, the Marine who was unlucky enough to be selected to go on a detail into the Indonesian jungle, and ran across what looked to be a deep black operation that was smuggling what he thought at the time was drugs, but now believes was human beings, using a saucer-like aircraft that traveled at, quote, 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers an hour in the blink of an eye. He also happened to be wearing a Freemason tie pin. He also was wearing a WEF pin, and there were quite a few pins there. And that leads me to this portion of the discussion that Stephen Greer put up, a very interesting portion where he explains ISG.
Handed to them. So the chief characteristics of this illegal secret government called ISG projects, they're the CIA folks and Pentagon people and most of the people in the government are victims of this. They're not culpable. When people say, why is the government hiding all this? Well, the government is very complex and it's highly compartmentalized. These operations have been run by a clandestine, unsanctioned group. And therefore, our military and our intelligence community and our political leaders are, in fact, victims of this secrecy. I want to refer very briefly to one of the very first CIA director, Admiral Roscoe Hillenkoetter, who in 1961 wrote to the New York Times and said, the secrecy around UFOs is a threat to the national security, not the UFOs. So what has happened is it's all been turned on its head, where they're trying to say, UAPs are a threat. Well, the man-made ones are. The extraterrestrial ones aren't. This has to be made crystal clear to the American people so we don't stumble into an absolute disaster.
An absolute disaster would be exactly right. So ISG, now I have actually heard that term known that term for many years. And there are a number of books that are written about it. And the more I think back on it, I really have to go and seek out the books, and I think I've had just about every one he's ever written, and I haven't read a hardcover book now in probably 5 years. I read everything else online. I don't know if he's put out a new one, but Matthew Riley, an Australian author, writes some pretty wild military hybrid alien technology type novels, and I would highly recommend, if you are of a mind, to go and have a look at Ice Station Zebra. There's a couple of short stories. One I can't think of the name of, but it involves an old aircraft carrier that's tied up at some island in the middle of nowhere, where they've been conducting hybrid experiments on humans and monkeys, and they have a hybrid monkey force, if you like. And when I say monkey, I mean chimpanzee or orangutan or gorilla. And they bred different. Anyway, go and look it up. Interesting story. A lot of interesting stories. Matthew Riley, in hindsight, It's a wonderful thing, has written about. Highly recommend you go and check it out. So let's get back into some more revelations from Stephen Greer. Now, we know that, and we discussed the other night, how the Roswell aircraft or craft was brought down using a new radar technology that they were testing. Radar being passive, but they had an active system inside it that was a form of electromagnetic pulse, except it wasn't a pulse. Pulse works in waves. This was more like a shot, and it worked in a longitudinal fashion rather than a wave fashion, and brought that one down. Well, from that vehicle, they were able to start reverse engineering a lot of technology, and we know for a fact that they were able to control gravity using anti-gravitational reverse engineered technology from as early as 1954. Now, Eisenhower was the president, and he raised concerns.
This object was retrieved because it became disabled. Some of these retrieval operations are not extraterrestrial, but they would like sometimes the public to think maybe it was, because the bigger secret, I'll tell you right now, is not the extraterrestrial issue. It's these technologies, which an unsupervised and frankly illegal operation have, which is a threat to the national security, period. This we will prove. And this is a bigger threat, the existence of these in the hands of unsupervised operations that have escaped the oversight of the President of the Office of the President and the Congress since 1956 to 1960. Hence Eisenhower's speech, beware the military-industrial complex. This is actually what he was talking about. I know people who have since passed away, like our witness, Stephen Lovkin, who was at the White House with Eisenhower, who said point blank, the president lost control of these projects and that he was very upset and angry about it, but these projects became so compartmentalized that he no longer could control them.
So that's a fairly serious thing for a president to admit and to have happened to them. They're meant to be almost omnipotent with power, aren't they? But not the case. I would also just draw your attention to Stephen Greer's presentation himself. Does he look nervous presenting this? I've seen a lot of other Stephen Greer presentations, and clearly they've been, produced. He's not standing in front of a crowd delivering a live speech, although in many cases, some of what he is shown in those videos, he is. Doesn't look that nervous. I believe he is looking nervous, and I can guarantee it by the way he's talking, by the way he is breathing. He is what I call pumped up. And when you get nervous and you're speaking publicly, you keep taking air on, and you can pump yourself up. You can get too much air in your lungs, and it doesn't work trying to speak a few words and top up again because you're not using enough of that. You really got to keep talking and keep talking and keep talking and deflate your lungs almost to nothing before you can get a decent breath again. And that's why you see him gasping for breath at certain periods, and his voice is shaking at certain periods. Now, yes, it could be nerves. Could just simply be nerves. He's standing in front of a press gallery. I don't know if it's actually a big press gallery or not, or a famous press gallery or not. It seemed to be a very supportive press gallery. There's a lot of applause at various different times. Or could he be nervous because of the gravity of the information that he is being now finally allowed to deliver and be allowed to back up with the facts that he has? We only then have to believe the facts that he has and do our own research on them. That would be my question. But as we move forward, just have a look at the way that he presents and the confidence with which he presents certain aspects of this. Have a look at
These
this.
actions really are a threat to world security and national security, and they have to be reined in immediately. I want to choose my words carefully here. A clock, I understand, has been put on this getting resolved through hearings and other means, and by the end of this year, it needs to be resolved. And that's all I will say at this point. So these
So is that a bloke who looks like he's been told some information that he can't say and is very nervous about slipping up on anything he is saying? He doesn't want to give anything away. But that's a very clear indication there, the end of the year. Everything has to be sorted out by the end of this year. I have heard that as well. But I heard that at the end of last year too, didn't we all? So we won't go and get too socially excited about it. I've decided I'm not going to keep playing the Marine because just looking at the fucking typing makes me so angry and sick that I don't want to show him. However, I will tell you that basically the crux of the story was these 6 guys found this spaceship. They were ambushed or surrounded by a security force of fellas who were dressed in all black, no insignia, no rank. They were carrying American weaponry all down, including their sidearms, but more advanced American weaponry than these Marines were able to have. They discussed whether or not they were going to just shoot them and leave them in the jungle or throw them out of a helicopter or somewhere, that they had the ability and the permission to go and kill them if they so decided. They walked them back up a hill after disarming them and, making their weapons inactive, and then apparently let them go with, keep your mouth shut kind of stories. They were flown back out to their boat. And once they were debriefed on the boat, I beg your pardon, once they'd handed their weapons back on the boat, they were, had a shower and were asked up to a debriefing where an admiral they'd never met before debriefed them, and they were all given non-disclosure documents to sign. When they went back to their racks, the camera that this bloke had taken photos of this thing with apparently was open on his bed, and the memory stick and the battery of the camera were gone. And a few days later, they were back in Japan somewhere having a day off, an R&R day off, when he was called to a building to have a meeting with somebody. He walked into the building and there was nobody else in the building but this Air Force officer who basically had another non-disclosure agreement for him to sign and threatened him with his life should he ever decide to disclose what he had seen. There was a kill date on his NDA, and that means he's now talking, but he's also wearing the Masonic flag. Here's another story. This time, this didn't come from a Mason.
SSL, we call him Coast Guard, and this is his incoming letter to me, the redacted information. And then he told us about an event off of Guam where his Coast Guard ship, which is a buoy servicing vehicle out there, was called in on a mutual assist. And he got there, and you'll see on the next picture, there was an extraterrestrial vehicle that we had downed but got lost in the deep waters there in the Marianas Trench, and it had gotten caught and tangled up in, oddly, a fisherman net from Japan, a trawler, big one, big trawler. And so they were called in to retrieve this. He went and did retrieve it. He was part of the crew that most of them went down quarters, but with blacked out windows, he was there above ground, took a very sharp object to try to scratch it, impenetrable, could not scratch it, could not penetrate it. These are very advanced metallurgy, nanomolecular material, interstellar vehicles. Next. So what's going
on? Interesting little point there. I'm just scrolling through the chat very briefly, guys, and I'm catching little bits. Hello to Amanda Sheedy, who's in the chat. I've just seen your name there, and I don't know if somebody thinks I'm ignoring them or not. I'm not ignoring anybody. I can't really follow the chat and do what I'm doing here at the same time, guys. It's really difficult. So I'm just trying to see if anything else is there. Not sure, Black Mountain, where that level of new level of tunnels found you are speaking of. I did listen to a very interesting thing today, which was about dumb clearing. And the discussion was that humans can't go down into the deepest, the ancient tunnels. And that was the conversation had, that humans cannot go down into those tunnels, which are below about 50 kilometres, for two reasons. There's not enough oxygen and it's too hot, can't deal with the heat. So who is? Well, light workers and obviously forces of good from other galactic Federation members. I think the specific members apparently come from Venus. And I'm trying not to laugh because I know it's not that I don't believe it. It's just incredulous that I'm saying this shit. They come from Venus. Why do they come from Venus? Isn't Venus a gas planet? No, it's not. It does have a very gassy atmosphere, but the folks that live on Venus come from in Venus, and they have huge underground cities, so they are capable of dealing with the heat and everything else, the pressure. And that would be in part of it too. You know what it's like going up in an aircraft with pressure? Well, imagine the crushing pressure it takes to make a diamond. That's the kind of pressures you got to deal with, and that probably messes with your head more than anything, I'd reckon. However, it does seem like folks from Venus are cleaning out the deepest ancient tunnels. And I did find this talk interesting, stimulating, enlightening in a lot of ways. In fact, part of the conversation was about clones of Donald Trump. And I found this as a hypothesis to be one worth considering. A lot of people call out and scream about Donald Trump plugging the vaccine now, or getting the jab, getting the booster. Now, initially, back when he opened Operation Warp Speed, I believe everybody got saline until Joe Biden got in. After that, I think it's been a poison jab since that time. Any further pushing of the jab, and I have got to admit, I don't think I've seen any of it, but I do believe it exists, may have been done by Deep State clone. Now, bear with me. If we believe the Deep State are having clones, or the good guys are having clones, then we must also believe that they both have access to making those clones. What if the Deep State made a Donald Trump clone? They just wheeled him out on occasion to make statements that the press gleefully give him airtime for. There was a way to identify the clone Trump given as well. It's the clone Trump, or, well, the Trump that wears the MAGA hat pulled down low over his eyes when he makes speeches, and he's a bit heavier set than what the real Donald Trump is. So that's could be another distraction. But anyway, something to give some thought to. I think it's just one of the many things that are coming out at the moment. Just watch the military, folks. Watch the military. I've heard stories today that Albo has been told to stand down. But let's face it, millions of us are praying for that every day. Somebody's got to be telling them that internally anyway. So who knows? It may well be him. There are a number of secret bases scattered across the world.
And Michael Schratzer nodding his head. Yeah, this has become a torrent. And so we want to set up a mechanism. We're recommending that you'll hear what our recommendations are for the President and Congress to resolve this crisis. Next. So I wanted to mention that these bases, if you look at them, let's go to, this is where all these illegal operations have happened. I'm saying illegal because we can prove that this information, as Senator Inouye said, you'll hear his statement in a moment, has been run by a very shadowy, deep black operation. And we're not talking the legal black budget of the United States. We're talking about projects that presidents and CI directors and secretaries of defense and members of the Congress who have a need to know and are cleared TSSCI in SCIFs, secure compartmented information facilities, have been blatantly either gaslit, denied access. That is the foundation of everything we've done, is that these projects are a priori illegal and therefore unconstitutional and have to be reined in, because not doing so is a threat to the national security.
Yep, Pine Gap's listed on there, and goes on to say at various different points that Pine Gap is basically the garage for the UAPs and ARVs and UFOs down here. Yes, apparently many of them. They've been bringing them down for a while.
So this is actually an extraterrestrial vehicle, a very large one that was at the Nellis North Range. We have the location of the helipad. It's Delta Force manned. This occurred back in that same era, around 2009, about 65 feet across. It's seamless, but it has sort of a clamshell part of it. There was a ramp that rolled out, like he said, like a roll-up that came out of it. And there was a ARV above it that was headed in lock. It was an electromagnetic lock on this object. I think it was stunned, and that's how it was brought down. This is not infrequent, not every day, but not infrequent. I said over the last 80 years, at least 122 have come down. So there are helicopters. He was on the team to pick up debris. This one was, of course, intact. It began to pulse and operate and came back to life, as it were. And the entire group that was there basically were put in some kind of a stasis electromagnetically. Sounds like science fiction, teleported back to the helipad instantly. But before that happened, he had this meeting with two of these extraterrestrial biological entities, a male and a female, and this is a very accurate, according to the whistleblower, who needs to come forward when there's adult protection. They had no pinna, the ears outside, and had no hair, and there was a male and a female. And it was made very clear to him by these beings that they were completely non-hostile. All extraterrestrial civilizations are non-hostile. If they were hostile, the technologies they have would have been made quite clear to us in August of 1945. We'll get to this in a moment. So this, later he had an event when he tried to leave that command where there was a fake, what's called a programmed life form alien. These have been used in what you hear in the fabled lore of abductions and stuff in the UFO lore. This is actually a man-made creature, but it's not living per se. It has a covering that's skin-like. It tried to take him with one of these ARVs in command, and some people camouflaged in the ground near his truck. After he got out of this command, he was disgusted with what was happening. He no longer wanted to be part of that project, but they weren't happy he left. I told him, it's a miracle that you lived to tell this tale. And so what happened is that his pickup truck went into sort of complete lock, motor died because of this man-made UFO, UAP. He opened the door because he saw this creature, which he thought was an alien. It's not. And he hit it, it fell, he kicked it, and it split open this outer, and he saw the integrated circuits and fiber optics and what have you. This man I've dealt with quite a bit. He was ready to come to the aero skiff. He had a nasty encounter with people who threatened him directly. This is recent. And so we have not been able to bring him to the Aero Pentagon briefing. Next. And this is one.
There you go. So I do actually have another list I can play with another bit of a chat. It throws up the secret base names and locations all around the world there too. If you wanted to go and have a look at that, I might just post that up somewhere else. We're going a bit long tonight. So there are some interesting little things in the world, aren't there? You saw the explanation Rob put together for the Tic Tac thing last night. Well, have a look at this.
The so-called Tic Tac and others. Now, I've spoken to one of the pilots who chased these objects. You've seen it on CNN, 60 Minutes, all these places. What hasn't been told when this event happened in the early 2000s is that these objects, which you'll see in a moment, particularly one of them, we have matching top secret witness testimony of them being a man-made object that our jet pilots and military don't know exists. This is dangerous in terms of deconflicting operations. So let's go to the next and play this.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotated.
This is the so-called tic-tac now.
Nickel 61 Tango Roger. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger.
Now, of course, this has been called an unknown UAP, what have you. We can excuse the Pentagon and most of the military and the White House and the Congress for not knowing what this is, because the operations that have been building these are deep black illegal, and they are not disclosing it properly to the authorities in our constitutional democracy and republic. This is based on a sighting of a group of people. Is basically the same object in the 1960s, 1967. Let's go to the next slide. And it's sort of a sketch here, the so-called vintage steam boiler. These have been seen in multiple places around since the 1950s and 60s. Next. Here's one that's a very good color illustration of it. Notice the probes on it. Extraterrestrial vehicles do not have those. These electrostatic discharge objects. We're not going to get into all the physics of this. Our team understands it, and we're welcome to share that in a longer brief with media folks. And here's the 2004 off the coast of San Diego tic-tac. It's fundamentally the same object. Next. And here it is. We have a top secret whistleblower came forward a few months ago in 1991, so now we're talking quite some time ago, way before the 2004 event, that is offloading off a C-130, one of these UAPs, but it's actually a man-made one, and here you have the color illustration. This man is very afraid to come forward. He was warned not to, and at one point was told he would be, quote, executed. Next.
Well, there you go. So two different views on what the tic-tac is and whether it's man-made or whether or not it's extraterrestrial. So there is certainly a view there. Take it for what you will, folks. I have a theory about UFOs and Project Bluebeam, and should I ever be greeted by an alien on the street or an alien spaceship landing in a park that I happen to be doing a walk around or whatever, then I'm not going to be running in the other direction. All it's going to take is for one person to walk up to it and walk through it or touch it, if it's real. That's all it's going to take. And if it is real, it won't be an alien invasion that's happening. It'll be a greeting. If you can't touch it, if you just walk through it, then it's holographic. It's a projection. And I would expect that our invasion will happen at night, when it would be easier to project many, many things onto whatever clouds there are that they've generated in our sky. So I would just bear all that in mind. The alien invasion is only going to last as long as the bravest human being walks up to it and proves that it's a fallacy. It's CGI. It's fake. That's how long the alien invasion will last. There is a lot of talk about aliens. Maybe they're not aliens. Maybe they are fallen angels. Have you gone and looked up Nephilim yet? You might notice that if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, that there are a lot of stories coming to light about the Nephilim. Now, this is a tremendously interesting story, and it comes from the Bible. Worth looking into, and I'm going to get one of our great friends, members, and a great supporter of mine, and a bloody great friend of mine, Black Sheep, to come on and have a bit of a chat, because he may not look it, and at times you might think, wow, but Black Sheep has a biblical knowledge about biblical things. And I'm not suggesting for one scintilla that he is in any way, shape, or form what we would maybe scoffingly and incorrectly refer to as a God botherer. No, I would just say he's a researcher of immense note. And I've forgotten exactly how many Bibles and different other religious texts that he has, but they number a great deal. And they all tell similar but different stories, interpretations of the same thing. And it's how you interpret those stories, maybe, as to how you go forward in your belief. So I'm hoping to nail down Black Sheep in the wilds of Tasmania, if he hasn't frozen himself to one spot, which will be beside his John Deere tractor, I have no doubt. I hope to get him on for a bit of a chat at some stage next week. So that'll be the go with that. I ran into an old pirate today. He passes on his best to everybody. I hope you're looking forward to more from him. He's having an absolute ball at the moment. Thanks to everybody who asked questions about whether or not it could have been that musical video that I played. Maybe it's given me a bug. No, I don't believe that's the case. As far as I'm aware, I've uploaded that both to YouTube and to Rumble, but I think the Rumble one failed for some reason. The YouTube one has been denied, taken down, banned. I don't know. Don't think you can see it. You should be able to. I hadn't monetized it or anything like that, but there was a copyright thing put up against it almost immediately, and I don't know if that was from the creators of Video Killed the Radio Star or the video itself. So it has come to light that the author of the video, the creative genius behind it, may in fact be one of those trolls that we know and love to not name. And if that is the case, then she needs a bit of a pat on the back. She's a very talented lady, if that's the case. I think she may have had to have some help putting all that together. And there is, I don't know, true or not, some rumors that the lady in the pink top dancing around in that clip might be her. Bit of a good sort. Just saying. I'm going to go now. Make sure you have a bloody great weekend. Don't go and do anything stupid on the roads. We know bad shit happens on the roads, and usually when dickheads are driving. But sometimes, sometimes it's just a horrifying accident.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!